Here's 10 Scarlet and Violet singles that I'm buying very shortly, and ones that I also believe will see some returns for me in the near future. Now, if you're new to the channel or you haven't been watching for very long, I don't do heaps of videos on singles. And when it comes to singles, I just buy what I want. I'm predominantly a sealed investor, and this channel is predominantly focused on sealed investing, but sometimes it's nice to turn our strategy to singles, or at least have a look at them. So I'm going to give you 10 singles today that I think are going to go up in price, all from the Scarlet and Violet era, and ones that I'm going to pick up and add to my singles collection. Now, I just wanted to give you two pieces of single advice. Single advice sounds like a dating channel now. Pokemon singles advice. Two pieces of Pokemon singles advice, because it is a Pokemon investing channel after all. Now, this is the biggest piece of advice I can give anyone when it comes to singles, and that is, don't bother ripping packs trying to find your chase card. Just buy the chase card that you want. Now, if you're new to the hobby again, you might not have heard that, but most people, if they're in the space when it comes to Pokemon collecting or investing, unless they got their head buried in the sand, would have heard that saying before. But I think it needs to be repeated because it's just such a true saying. Don't chase your chase card by ripping packs, just buy it. And to give you an example of what I mean by that, the new Surging Sparks set, of course, has been out for a couple of months now, and there's some beautiful chase cards inside that. But if you're looking at special illustration rares, like the Pikachu, like the Latias, like the Milotic, for argument's sake, the Hydreigon, each one of those individually has a pull rate of roughly 1 in 900 to 1 in 1,000 packs. Now, to put that into some sort of perspective, that is about 30 booster boxes on average to pull like an individual chase card out of those. So if you transfer that into monetary value based off current market cost, I mean, good luck finding 30 booster boxes. You're going to have to probably pay $7,000 or $8,000 US to get those. And I mean, you might get lucky, you might pull one in your first booster box, but it might also take you 50 booster boxes. It's not guaranteed that you'll get it inside 30 booster boxes, but that just gives you an idea of how hard it is to actually pull the chase card that you want. So my advice, just buy the single you want. Now, the other thing to do with singles when it comes to investing in them is they can fluctuate rapidly. And it's also really, really hard to read the play. The typical play, if there were one when it comes to singles, is they sit at an all-time high at, like literally as the set first releases. Why? Because there's not much supply in the market. Like literally day one, day two is when they're at their highest because, maybe some stores don't have it yet. They might be the first to jump online and, they're at an all-time high when it comes to that. Then they generally take a little dive off as more supply hits the market. Now, that's not always the case. It can change, of course. And then over time, it can have other runs. Some cards can run up. Some can then come back down to earth and they can have a second run up and eclipse their original run up. So it's really, really hard to know what singles are going to do. And here's another example to hammer home the point. Base set Scarlet and Violet has a card inside it called Drowsy, which is, of course, is a Gen 1 Pokemon. This year alone, in the last 12 months, this Drowsy, which is a beautiful artwork, it's up 305%. Like, who would have thought? Who could have said that at the start of the year and got it right? Like, that's what I mean by singles. They just fluctuate so much. But let's jump in and have a look at 10 that I'm picking up and 10 that I think have some room for growth if you want to invest and have a dip into singles. Before I do that, though, I just wanted to give a shout out to today's video sponsor, which is Pokenotify. This is a Discord. I'll leave all the links in the description of this video to sign up to that. There is a 3-day free trial. If you use the code PokeOz_25, you can get 25% off your membership. I think it's about $7 a month. Whether you're in the UK, Europe, Canada, Australia, United States, it'll have every country and region stock supplies. When things drop, there's also a good community in there. So, when things drop, you can pick up some good deals essentially or be one of the first to grab them. There's also a good community in there of like-minded people that you can have conversations with around picking up Pokemon card products. So everything will be in the description for Pokenotify. Right, let's start off with number 10. And I actually mentioned this would have been about a month ago as a card to keep your eye on. And in the last month, Persian from Shrouded Fable has gone from $21 US to $29 US. I still think there's some legs in it. Maybe not heaps. I think it might get to about a $35 US card. Now, Shrouded Fable is a really interesting set. There's a lot of chatter about it, and there's this commentary around, buying sets that no one else is looking at the moment. And I guess you could argue Shrouded Fable is one of those sets that no one's really looking at the moment. It's going down as, hey, look, it's not as bad as like Pokemon Go from the Sword and Shield era. Talking of Pokemon Go, have a look at what that's been doing recently. But it's one of those sets that people have sort of turned a blind eye to. So, it's a subpar set compared to what it's surrounded by, Twilight Masquerade and Surging Sparks and Prismatic Evolutions. But it's one of those funny ones. Sometimes those forgotten sets that, come out of the gate and don't do too well can actually perform quite well in the long run. I mean, Shining Legends is another one. That was sort of like, everyone was like, oh, these shiny Pokemon, it's like a cheap knockoff of what it was during the Neo era. They're nowhere near as good as what they were, and the artworks aren't that great at what they've done with it. The test tube Mewtwo looks half gimmicky and bad. And look at Shining Legends now. It's a very coveted set. The Elite Trainer Box goes for big dollars. A PSA 10 test tube Mewtwo goes for astronomical money now. So I'm not saying go out and buy Shrouded Fable because it's going to go to the moon, but I am saying who knows what's going to happen to it. Could be funny things. Number 9 on my list is another Shrouded Fable card, which is the Houndoom. One thing I do, that's current market price, by the way, at $26. Again, I think this has legs to get up to like a $35 US card. One thing I will say that I like about the vibe, geez, that's a Gen, whatever Gen we're up to now, Z, X, Z. This is a very Gen Z word, isn't it? But I like the vibe of Shrouded Fable that, there's so many light-hearted Pokemon-looking cards throughout the Scarlet and Violet era, there's no real sort of tough-looking Pokemon. And I like the dark ghost type that they've brought into Shrouded Fable. I like the artworks inside there. They're a bit more eerie and dark, and I like that about the set. And the Houndoom is probably one of the most eerie and dark cards from that set. So like I said, I'm picking that up, and I feel it's got legs to maybe go to $35 US. Number 8, Twilight Masquerade's Chansey. I just think this is a cool card. $12 US. Look, I'm not saying this is going to the moon, and you might have to buy 100 copies of it to make any money off it. Might be a grading play attached to it as well. But, you've got other cards, other Pokemon inside there. Psyduck's in there. Snorlax is chilling at the back of the Pokemon Center inside there. I just think it's cool. Like it's Chansey chilling inside the Pokemon Center, which is a cool concept there. Number 7, if you haven't watched Rob Burns' Christmas podcast, where a lot of us Pokemon content creators linked up just before Christmas as a bit of a special, we had a bit of a joke about this card that, Steelix from Paradox Rift was absolutely going to the moon, but current market price for Steelix, so I guess this is number 7 on the list, is $23 US. Again, I think this has legs to go to that $35 US mark. I'm not saying it's going to the moon and going to be a $100 card, but I think some of these have legs. And look, this along with a lot of other Scarlet and Violet cards has seen some increase in price as stock's gotten really low. Stock of sealed product across the whole Scarlet and Violet era is quite low. And as soon as stock starts getting low, it does actually put some upward pressure on singles. And we've seen that on most of these examples I'm giving you. And it's no different with number 6 here, Bulbasaur from Stellar Crown. I actually prefer this artwork over the Squirtle. Charmander artwork from Obsidian Flames, isn't it? From the Obsidian Flames Elite Trainer Box, I think is the best out of these 3 artworks for the illustration rares from the starters. But $50, I can see once Stellar Crown supply really starts dwindling off, and look, I'm not saying straight away, but maybe in 18 months' time, maybe it cops a small reprint coming into next holiday period around October this year, and it stagnates a bit, but in 18 months' time or thereabouts, I think we can see a lot of these illustration rares from Scarlet and Violet really jumping up. Like, I can see this Bulbasaur maybe becoming a $70 or a $75 US card in the long run. Look at Eevee from Twilight Masquerade. Have a look at what that's doing, and arguably, I think these are on par or every bit as good as that Eevee from Twilight Masquerade. Albeit they're probably a little bit easy to pull. They seem quite easy to pull from Stellar Crown. You see them popping up everywhere. Number 5 is from 151. it's got to be the mascot, doesn't it? Pikachu from 151. One thing you'll notice with 151 cards is a lot of them have gained a lot of value in the last 3 to 6 months, particularly the big chasers like the Charizard, of course, the Blastoise, the Venusaur, and some of their evolution lineup. The Pikachu's at $32 US. I think this is a really, really nice artwork. And I think once the Blooming Waters craze that is going on at the moment, at Costco, and there's essentially more 151 sealed product hitting the market, will there be more? Hey, if there's not more, expect more rises from 151 singles. And I think Pikachu being the mascot of the whole Pokemon world, I can see this going up in price if that happens. Number 4, another one from 151. You've probably heard me speak about this as well. My favourite card, of course, from 151 is the Alakazam, but the Dragonair is an absolutely stunning artwork, and this will continue the run, like I said, if Blooming Waters essentially is our last sealed supply, and who knows, I'm not saying it is, we could get another strong reprint of Elite Trainer boxes for all we know. But as we see with Blooming Waters, as soon as 151 sealed supply hits the market, it gets eaten up as quickly as it lands, as quickly as it possibly can. So that's another one. Into the top 3, I guess, and I don't know if these are in any particular order. These are just 10 cards I'm choosing to pick up. But the Milotic from Surging Sparks. Now, this is probably the most expensive one on my list. It's $134 US. I love the artwork inside this. This is another one of those sort of funny cards because, like I was saying before, when it comes to singles, typically they come out the gate like this on day 1 and 2, and then they drop a little bit. And look, Milotic did that a bit, but this card rebounded a lot quicker than we'd normally expect. And it rebounded up to 150, $160 US, and it's dropped back down to 134. What it shows is there is some demand that can drive it up to that 150 to 160 US dollar mark. This is probably more one I just want for the collection rather than thinking it could go higher. But, we all know how hard Surging Sparks stock is to get. Booster box prices are going absolutely bonkers, and I think this will put some upward pressure on those top 5 chase cards sitting inside Surging Sparks, which of course includes Milotic. The final 2, number 2, both from Temporal Forces actually, and that is the Ghastly. Current market price, $39. Temporal Forces is one of those funny sets. It's like, it's just like that mid-tier set, isn't it? It's that, well, if you're into golf, just to give an example, it's one of those golfers that just plods along. Might get the occasional top 10 finish, but, heads along to every PGA Tour event, but never really cracks it, never really makes it. Like, it's just, they're solid, but there's no hero in the set, and that's what Temporal Forces sort of feels like. It's full of really nice special illustration rares. There's Morty's Conviction, there's a nice Gengar EX, there's the Ghastly inside there, so we get that, Gengar flavour coming through to it, and we all see what the Gengar flavour's done to Fusion Strike. But Ghastly at Temporal Forces, I think, is something I definitely want to add to my collection. I still think has legs to run up. We saw it run up, it would have been about 3 or 4 months ago now. It went to crazy heights, or maybe even 6 months ago. I got up to like an $80 US card. So I don't think it has legs to double again, but, it might become a $50 US card. I think it's got the possibility to get there. And finally, like I said, another one from Temporal Force, and this is the cheapest on the list, only at $9 US. Arbok. Keep in mind, he was one of the protagonists from the original Pokemon TV series, one of Team Rocket's great Pokemon that always got beaten in battle, of course, and got blasted off again with Jesse and James. But this is a cool-looking artwork. Like, sometimes it's just nice to sit down and look at all the artworks that Scarlet and Violet has brought us so far, and that's 10 for me that I think I really want to add to the collection. But B, on top of that, when I do add it to the collection, I just set and forget, and these 10 are ones that I can actually see moving up in price a little bit. I'm Michael, this is Poke Oz. Catch everyone next time.